Hello and welcome back to Sprite Guard Plays HyperRogue. We are setting out to sea as soon as we are able to in order to go track down the Orb of Time, but before then we have to find our way out of the hive, and so that is what we are going to do now. I see Relia, and I think that that is where we want to go. I'm going to pick up this Orb of Flash first, and the reason I think we want to go to Relia is because Relia, I believe, has a fairly high likelihood to border on the ocean, and I just want to make sure that we have, yes, 10 statues of Cthulhu. So we're not going to be going into an area where we have 25 treasures, though it might actually be entirely worthwhile to pick up 25 treasures here, maybe after we find an ocean. Because this is, the Orb of Teleport is one of the most useful orbs, purely from a viewpoint of just straight survivability. It is the orb that is most able to get you out of trouble, with the Orb of Flash being more useful as kind of a utility orb, and pretty much equal in its ability to get you out of trouble. But those are the two orbs that I kind of see as the highest value for just ordinary activities. Orb of the Dragon, I think, is extremely important for taking on some of the more difficult lands, especially the Red Rock Valley and what am I thinking of? The Red Rock Valley and the Vineyard. Okay, now let's check. We only have one garnet, so we are safe to see if we can find a boat here in the Living Fjord. And once we find a boat here, we should have a very easy time of finding our way into the ocean, but boats are pretty rare here, so we kind of have to watch out, hope that a Viking pulls up near us, or, you know, maybe we will come across something that we say, well, maybe we should do our searching someplace else. I see, it looks like we have a boat actually right up here, so let us head over to it. Now, the main concern about getting a boat in the Living Fjord is the risk of water elementals, but we don't have to worry about that right now, because we only have one garnet, and I believe they only show up once you have 5. However, as I'm saying that, I'm remembering that we had a water elemental in the last episode. I remember Simon mentioning that it behaved a little bit oddly. When I killed the... When I killed the water elemental, there was nothing there. It was just, you know, it leaves a puddle of water behind. And then an orb of water appeared several turns after that. And the reason for that is that the orb of... or rather, the water trail that the water elementals leave behaves like the Cocytus. And so, in the icy land, the water will cool for a couple of turns, the heat will dissipate away from it, and then it will turn to ice. And when it turns to ice, the orb of water that is on that cell gets lifted up, and it gets revealed because that cell now reads as a land cell. We're going to pick up this Orb of the Dragon. We probably won't be able to hold on to it long enough for it to be really useful, but we do have a Caribbean right over here for us to drop into, and so we can start looking around. One thing I am very curious about, now that we have this, is what does starting fires in the Caribbean do for us? And it looks like basically nothing. It looks like we can set the trees on fire, but it does not spread. And so that's not especially useful. Orb of the Dragon has a lot of very specific uses, but for general utility, it's not that big of a deal. So now that we're out of sight of the compass that dropped, I want to kind of wait around and hopefully we will see, because it's very hard to find your way around in inside of an island. And it seems a little bit odd to me to think of an infinitely large expanse as being an island. I think of that kind of more as a continent. But hyperbolic geometry is so weird in so many ways. And you really can go around and around and around the edge of these islands. And so it's really, it's such a strange kind of experience. Such a strange kind of world that we're in. So I am not seeing any treasures yet. I see one that's on the other side of a tree. It looks like we have some compasses over here that are pointing, of course, in very confusing directions, because things that look like straight lines to us are not actually straight lines. So it looks like we can go this way to get a little bit deeper, and that just takes us right back where we were. So probably we're going to need to wait for one of these pirates over here. My guess would be this direction. Okay, it looks like it's over that way. And we're 21 deep, so we should actually be able to find some treasures less deep than that. And here we can see some that are on the other side of some trees. We don't see any orbs of flash to break through, but here's one that we can get to. And this is one of the areas where we do need to be very aware of combat opportunities, because it's something that I can forget about really easily. And it has an almost zebra-like quality to it, in that we can get swarmed fairly easily. And so I want to kind of be cognizant of that. I think this is the space that we most recently... Oh wow, we're still at 11, so let's see if going in this direction... Okay, there's another compass. Let's see, where are we now? Okay, so we're back at 21. This is where we were just a moment ago, so now we can head out in a different direction. Very quickly we will start heading away from the center as soon as we walk away from one of the compasses. Just because the more steps we take, the more different paths there are leading away from the center. Though we're actually one cell deeper now, so... You know, all of this is stochastic. It's all... You know, I'm wandering around randomly based on very few cues. And I am trying to find my way inward, and so... kind of the random nature of it and my kind of bias toward moving inward are going to make it so that we're a little tiny bit more likely to walk toward the center than we would be if we were doing a truly random walk. But after, you know, any number of steps, the odds of us moving toward the center is going to decrease pretty rapidly. Though we managed to actually find a line that took us pretty straight inward. And now we're 30 paces in. And so I actually want to start making my way out. We should have plenty of time to find our way out and find some treasures along the way. And then we have to start deciding, well, okay, are we going to try and go for 25, or are we just going to settle with 10? And the reason that settling with 10 seems tempting is that we're not actually seeing those orbs of flash that we were hoping for. That's something that, you know, I think it was a really good idea suggesting that, and I think that going for, like, if we were really deeply committed to going for a high score, that is absolutely something that would help us out. But I'm taking a much more kind of let it be approach, and so If we see one, that's great, but it looks like it's going to turn out that won't have enough of an impact for us to actually be able to see that impact. So here's a great example of my having neglected combat. We have a whole bunch of pirates. Luckily, they're lining up relatively well, and we can get them to line up a little bit better like this. There we go. And let's take a look at our treasures. Let's see, we have the X, 5X, okay. So we are still looking for 5 more treasures. I want to check how deep we are, 13, so we should be at a pretty good depth here. I think outside of 10 it starts to become less likely. I'm not sure exactly how far in you have to be for treasures to have a good chance of spawning. But I think as we touch these compasses, most of these compasses are going to be ones that we have left, and so we probably want to be moving away from them, while still trying to stay, relatively toward the center. The problem is, no matter how far out we go, how far around we go, the compasses are all going to point basically at each other as they point back toward the center. And so, once we get to something like 20 and then we start to go outward again, that will start to take us to places that we have not been before. But once we start to go back toward the center, we're going to very quickly end up back at places where we have already been. And so I'm thinking that maybe the thing to do now is actually to head to a different island, and by the time we get out of here, we should be very, very far from where we came in. And so any island that we jump to will probably be completely unexplored. I mean, that's guaranteed because we've only explored one island. Now this one is totally blocked off by trees. So we're going to have to look a little bit further. And we've got some combat here. Gonna have to just go around that parrot. So let's take a look at this island and see how deep we can get. And I think someone, I don't remember, I think it was Simon, but I'm not sure. I remember somebody telling me that orbs of safety in horocyclic lands will take you to the surrounding land because there is no completely random point inside of a horocyclic land. And that actually extends to the tower, which is not horocyclic, but still has a very well-defined single direction that makes every point kind of distinct, and it's not really as meaningful to, say, a random point. And this is the kind of trouble that I get into in the Caribbean a lot of the time, where I just end up having to get these guys lined up and having a lot of difficulty doing that. But we're going to make our way back down into the center, and we're just going to follow these compasses until we're pretty deep in, and then we're going to start looking for a different route out that will hopefully take us past some treasures. There is one over there. And once again, should be checking my corners, but I'm not because I am very lazy and a little bit out of it today. I've been forgetting words, I've been a little bit spacey. That happens from time to time. It's the sort of thing that I think happens to everybody. You have good days, you have bad days. And because I only have 1 or 2 days on which to record, and especially now that I'm doing these very long series where I don't want to drop any episodes, I kind of have to just roll with whatever, however well I'm feeling in any given day. I have to roll with that, which is, it's dangerous. It can get me in a lot of trouble if I'm not paying enough attention, and we end up going into, a situation that I'm not prepared for. And one thing that I'm really trying to do is trying to remember to stay hydrated when I do these things, because talking a lot really dries you out, and that can cause a lot of kind of symptoms of fatigue that can kind of be circumvented just by staying hydrated. So that's something that I really want to take advantage of as much as I am able to. So let's see if we can find a direction we have not been in. This looks promising. And we can take a look around, see if there's anything for us to find. Generally, treasures, in my experience, are always nestled in under trees. And we're not deep enough now. We're going to have to go back in toward the center. So probably moving around closer to trees is going to be a good idea. And we're just going to have to worry about parrots because of that, but parrots are quite a bit easier to deal with than pirates, because we can very easily put a wall between ourselves and them. So I'm going to head out and see if we can find another island and see if we can have more luck elsewhere. Just going to kind of keep trying that, because I find it a little bit difficult to figure out like a really consistent way of knowing where I've been in the Caribbean. Especially if I'm not really sure. It seems like there are compasses that get dropped even if you don't kill pirates. I'm not really sure exactly how. Like that, there's no way we could have dropped that compass. So I don't know exactly how compass generation works, but it's clearly not going to be able to tell us where we've been and where we have not been. And this island, it looks like we're running into a pretty thick boundary here, so we're going to have to head to another one. But we managed to find another treasure here. We're at 7. We only need a few more, so I am pretty optimistic. Let's see about this one. And I really hope this isn't... Okay. I'm always worried that we're going to end up someplace we've already been, even though I know that the odds of that are extremely low. So this treasure is actually very close to the shore, which is a little bit surprising. I actually kind of want to lure these pirates over this way to see how close in it actually is. And we're going to have to fight these parrots to find that out. There we go. So 6, 7, 8, 9, so it was right at 10. So my hypothesis about 10 being the magic number remains unconfirmed, but undenied as well. Let's see, which of these looks promising? Let's see, how about this one? There's an orb of flash. Alright. Let's see, I actually want to carry that away with me and see if we can take it someplace else. We do have a few charges we can carry it for. I would like to see if we can use it very usefully. But it looks like combat's kind of coming up in a way, and I'm... Okay, so yeah, things are not really working out in a way that we're going to get a very useful use out of that, unfortunately. I was a little bit too careless with trying to find my way into the center while also avoiding those pirates. There may have been a way that I could have played that a lot better, but as I said, I'm not feeling at my sharpest today, and so that's just something that is going to be something that we have to live with. And just try and be careful. We only need 2 more treasures. Let us see if we can find them. So I think that it's actually very likely that orbs only spawn in the water, based on what I have observed today. It looks like orbs spawn in the water in boats, and everything else, or rather the treasures, spawn. Oh geez, okay. We're in trouble, we're in lots of trouble. Hey, there's an orb of time. Let's try and get out of this trouble. Let's see. Well, one of those pirates carried an orb of safety very close to us. But we need to be very careful here. Let's see if we can find our way back to that chain of boats. Here we are. Orb of safety. Drops us into a random part of the Caribbean. Not especially useful at this point since we had already kind of escaped. Here, actually, this is a shore. So let us take a look at where this is actually going to land us, because it could end up taking us someplace very useful. It could end up taking us someplace that we don't want to go at all. Both are entirely possible. That is the Dead Cave. We do not want to go into the Dead Cave. Not even a little bit. That is someplace that is only going to lead to getting lost and trapped. And once again, not paying enough attention to combat. But we can get these guys nicely lined up. Or almost nicely. So, okay, so what are we looking for? We're looking probably for... Actually, a living fjord is probably where we want to be. Because this way we can move around pretty freely, and we can find some land, and we can move along it and see if we can find a land border that will take us to some place that we want to go. And now that I actually think about it, we probably should have actually used that orb of safety to save, because we've been going for quite a while here. So that was a mistake. We'll be on the lookout for another one. And once again, we don't really know where orbs are going to spawn in the living cave, or the living fjord, I mean. I don't remember if they spawn on the ground. I don't remember if we need to get 10 treasures here for any orbs to spawn. I don't remember if they only spawn in boats like in the Caribbean. I don't remember the mechanics there, and so we're just going to have to keep our eyes peeled, hope that we run into a land border not too long from now. And the reason that I think that this will be a little bit easier than traveling over sea is just because we don't have to kind of hunt our way down each tide zone, each shore. We can just move along and see each border. We don't have to keep turning back like that. But kind of the other side of that is we're just not seeing any land borders. And that's very discouraging, and so I'm thinking that it might actually be wise to head back out to sea and try, because we know that we can get lots and lots of land borders by going out into the ocean and making sure that this is not a whirlpool. And then just finding a way inward here. And that will get a little bit more difficult. We'll have to pay attention to the numbers up at the top of the screen. Once we're out of sight of the tide line. Oops. And I got a little distracted. Let's see. 8, 7... there is our land right there, and it is another dead cave. So we're going to actually want to find our way to a boat. And hope that we can get into the boat before the water returns. There we go. So let's head out again and look for another shore. And it looks like we've got some combat coming up. Not too difficult to deal with, but a little bit tricky. There we go. So let's look for another shore and try again. There's some whirlpools, quite a few whirlpools. This looks like a shore, yes. So let's wait for the tide, and then let's follow the tide in. And the reason that I want to do this is that makes it a little bit easier to get back out again. And this is a hive. Hive is good enough for me. So we now really want to wait for the tide because we don't want to get trapped by it. There we go. And there's an orb of safety, and we do not have royal jellies, do we? I don't think so. Pretty sure we do not. So we don't need 10 treasures from a land for the 25 treasure orbs to appear. So, there we go. We have the Orb of Time available in the Crossroads. We now have the opportunity to pick one up and then head into the overgrown woods and hope to find an Orb of Flash, an Orb of the Dragon. There may be other things that we want to bring in there as well. I'm not sure. I would have to think about that. But basically we are ready to start the search for an overgrown woods and see if we can take on the giant ivy. So that is what we are going to be doing in the next part of the, or in the next episode. I've changed the name, the numbering scheme. So, in the next episode, that's what we will be doing. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.